What's up, guys? You know what night it is. It is cards and donut slash cake slash baklava slash all these goodies right here. And dude, what a week. What a start to 2021. And dude, tonight's going to be a great night. I have ZiggyNo on the show, and many of you guys know who he is. And we're going to be talking about his predictions for the new year, as well as a new product that's coming out, breaking, as well as his predictions for NBA as well as NFL. And it's kind of weird because we have this kind of this affinity for the show Cobra Kai, which if you've never seen it, it's like the sequel 20, 30 years later to the Karate Kid. And if you watch the show, there's actually a lot of parallels with the show and what's going on in society as well as in the sports card hobby. And dude, you guys got to watch the show if you haven't. But Ziggy will be back on right in a second. I want to say hi to Michael Ham, Matt 4K. What's up, guys? Like a spider monkey. What's up, Ziggy? How you doing, man?
How are you doing, sir? Happy New Year. Thank you very much for having me back on. And
I
love it.
I appreciate it. And look, you brought Luka Doncic on the show, so
I did. I
wanted about that.
This is so I was watching the virtual on Sports Card Investor back in December, and they had a guy on there who's doing what they call small stars. And these are about 12-inch high characters of the sports athletes. And my kids like this, so I got one of these for my sons. What's cool about these is they are numbered. They only make a certain number of these. So this is 763 of 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm not pitching it, but I think it's cool. It's great when you're breaking cards, right? You have with your Luka doll. They've got them for all different kinds of athletes.
Well, you know, like what we were talking about right before this, and I think this is so fascinating because if you can get something like that Luka doll or other collectibles that are numbered that tie into sports cards and sports, now you're opening yourself up to a different market where all of a sudden you can invest in that Luka figure, and that might appeal more to you than cards or someone else. They could be drawn more to a figure or another type of collectible that is numbered, that is rare, that is something like that. But it's more you can showcase it better. It's more displayable than a small card that you could lose in your pocket. And I was telling Ziggy, and I want to hear what you guys think of this idea. But what if Panini or Topps gets into numbered figures and numbered basketballs or other things where it can it can complement cards but be for someone that is looking to collect things that are tied to a player but also rare without it just being a card because everyone loves cards that way.
Watch for Fanatics to do something like that because they have the jersey licensing. They could start doing numbered jerseys where they only make so many printed jerseys of a certain style. So yeah, they're going to steal your idea from you.
Yeah, well, dude, the more the merrier. I appreciate their creativity of doing that, and I just think it would help the hobby. I want to say, what's up, Lee? How's it going, man? Happy New Year's. House of Cards is here. Shane Robert Moreland, Hockey 99. What's up, guys? JJ S. Fleming. And so, look, it's still very early in 2021, and I wasn't able to have you on last week because it was like a packed house. But now we got one-on-one time, and I wanted to dive right in with it's the first week of 2021. It seems just like we were in 2020 in a lot of ways, but we got a long year ahead of us, including the end of NFL season coming up. Hopefully my Bucks will win, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that as well as what you're seeing in the NBA. But I know your specialty is also in product. You know a lot about new products, something I don't dive into. I don't know much at all. So let's just start with the sports. Like, what are you seeing in the NFL? What are you excited about this weekend? And then I want to hear who you think is going to take it all.
So I'll tell you, first of all, I'll say I'm super excited for the playoffs. And for those people, then I'll say this, my perspective on football and the hobby is over the last few years. Now, this is a weird year, right? Because it's kind of COVID. But in the past, what's interesting about football players is you'll watch a card go up and fall down based on one game, right? Because you basically build all this anticipation into a game. So, for example, Lamar Jackson, he wins that game tomorrow, or when I think it's tomorrow, right? That card could do very well. He loses that game, and that card could slip, right? So that's exciting, and I'm not telling you which way it's going to go. I'm just giving you an example of what to look for in the weekend. And it's also, I'll say this too, and if you follow this, if you are in it to profit, if you're looking to sell, don't wait for the Super Bowl to sell. right? Like in the NBA, when people waited for the championship, all that anticipated, value is kind of baked in, I think. So if you're looking to cash out, I would say you cash out during the playoffs. Personally, myself, my play in football, I'm not looking to move anything in the football season. I'm still picking up some players from this year. I focus on quarterbacks for the most part. And I'll tell you what I'm really excited about is looking forward into next year, right? And I'll say this too. When I look at 2021, here's the best part about football, guys, in the hobby, is the good football products are now coming out. Even though the football season is ending, the good products are coming out. And I use Star Stock as an example because they give you kind of a list of the good products. So you got Optic coming out. You're going to have Select coming out. You're going to have Contenders coming out. Those are 3 just premier football products. Really, really excited. And then obviously the big one will be NT National Treasures. I'm not sure on the dates because everything's kind of slipped, but that to me is exciting. Again, if you're a collector, if you're in the hobby / investor, whatever it is, again, what will happen is there won't be games being played when NT's being opened, right? There won't be games being played when they're opening up Contenders and stuff or likely because the season will be over by then. So it'll be interesting to see how the market does and how people pick up cards. I'm also interested to see how Star Stock does this weekend because Star Stock's been very hot for basketball and heating up for baseball. And it'll be interesting to see how much activity goes on in football as they close out the season there. So my tips for football, like I said, pick the right products. Focus on those right products, whatever your acquisition way is, you're buying singles, breaks, or, boxes, and then get ready for an amazing 2021-22 season with that draft class next year.
Yeah, I'm actually already looking at players for next season because, just seeing that spike in August with all sports really, but then just the leveling off after the Lakers won the championship and you see LeBron and Anthony Davis's values go down and you go like, how does this make sense? And I think my interpretation at least is that the hype is like spikes the price, but the merit keeps it at a certain level. So it's kind of like LeBron and AD further their legacy. They strengthen their legacy. So their floor should be a lot higher, but the emotions is hype. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what could happen? And oh my God, did you see that block or that between the lights pass or that game-winning 3? And then you're buying emotionally. But if you're thinking about Anthony Davis in the offseason, you go, and this he won a championship. He's good. I believe he's a good investment, but it's a lot more of a logical approach versus that fear of missing out. The game's tomorrow night. What's going to happen? I think he's going to hit the game winner. The other thing you mentioned, though, with the products, the NFL products coming out, is that you have Mosaic coming out earlier in the year. And that's one set that I actually did a bit of research on. And I have a video coming out about my thoughts on Mosaic, where it's very hard to pinpoint what Mosaic is or is not and what it's going to be. And I think the timing of Mosaic is very important in the value because sometimes I think of it as just like bread and butter before the steak arrives. Salad before the steak, because we're talking about Optic and Prism coming out with very little football left. You know what I mean? Compared to just if it came out in September, where you had that first picture in the pro uniform and there it is, and now the Prisms can be there for the next couple months. Now we're talking about National Treasures. What's the release date? Do you know roughly?
I don't. I think it's now April or May. It's normally March or I think it's normally March or February, but now it's been pushed. The thing is, though, it's funny when you mention Mosaic. I'm not a fan of Mosaic, and part of that is my experience. I got burned on a few first-year products in the past where I bought into them, and then they ended up not continue them the following year. And I'm just not 100% sold yet on Mosaic. And I will say that I think if you look at the collector community too, that's why Optic, for example, is a solid product, right? That's the rated rookie on-card auto, 1 auto per box. Parallels will be very, very valuable. That's a solid product. That's going to do very well. Contenders as well. Contenders is the on-card autographs. It's considered the rookie signature. So they could drop that in June. It really makes no difference in my opinion. And I think Mosaic, they deliberately did it because they needed something to feed the fuel when the season came. So it's funny. Let me talk about basketball. Basketball is now just going to be starting the real releases in February. They normally start those releases, guys, in September, October. I think October is normally when Hoops comes out. So they are many, many months behind. Also, basketball normally runs 54 to 53 weeks as far as the release. In other words, Flawless typically always overlaps the release of the next year's product. Right now, we're looking at 2021, where you're going to have the consolidation of all those basketball products in a short period of time. That's going to be very interesting because, and I'm more excited about basketball than football, and I'll explain that to you because basketball also doesn't have any big name rookie class this year. I mean, there's LaMelo Ball or whatever, but what's great is there's great value. The class is deep. Basketball normally takes a few years to mature. So what I'm doing with basketball and my sons and I, we're targeting which releases we're going to go after. We're allocating a budget, right? Let's say it's $1,000, whatever it is, and we decide, are we going to buy a hobby box? Are we buying breaks, whatever it is, and we focus in on just those years. And we're also going to hold for probably 12 months on this rookie class, because I think if you make any decisions early, it's too premature. And what I think is great this year, guys, is I think this will be more affordable because there's no really, it's not going to be like Luka's the most expensive card or Zion's the most expensive card. Lots of teams should be cheap. You can cast a bigger net. You can have more fun, I think, in basketball. So I'm really excited. The boys and I are excited. We kind of think it was like 2016 again, where the rookie class wasn't quite as strong or wasn't as hyped as much.
Okay, so talk to me a bit about that, because I've not done one break, and you're the one that informed me of how you can enter a break with strategy. So based on what you just said, let's just say in a couple months, all the products are out. What's your first line of thinking with entering a break in terms of teams to pick, but also what product to go after? Because the first thing I think of is if all the products are released very similar in similar times, I would imagine Prism would be number one, and then there could be some sleepers in terms of undervalued breaks because they're all getting jumbled together and there is no separation, so people can go from one to the next.
Yep. So let me answer. I'll kind of break it down. First of all, when it comes to breaking, I've been doing this for years, and I have some kind of rules to it. Number one, don't break emotionally, break logically. What that means to me is understand the checklist. Okay. You need to understand what the checklist is, what teams are good, what teams have value. So typically I wait for a checklist to come out. I also, very, very rarely do I prefer random team. I normally like PYT, where I pick the team I'm going to buy into. As an example, okay, let's say I was going to buy into, we'll say optic football this year, right? I would probably go after a team like Green Bay Packers, going after the quarterback there, Love. And I would buy the Packers in probably 5 or 6 different cases, right? I'd find out what the budget is, and I'm making some assumptions because I really don't know. But let's assume it's $100 for the Packers. I'm going to buy the Packers in 5 or 6 different cases. That's going to be my allocated budget. Now, with that, the reason I'm picking optic is because an optic autograph is great. An optic base card is good. Optic parallels are solid, right? So I get a lot of value in that product. I would be a little more cautious about things like NT. I'm not a big fan of breaking because you're either going to feast or famine. In optic, if I spend $500 in 5 breaks in optic, I should get back value. What I mean by that, too, another key to breaking is you have to take in consideration breaking that grading is part of your process, right? One of the biggest mistakes people do in breaking is they get a big hit and they sell it immediately. And the reason they do that is because they want more money to get in another break, right?
Feed the addiction.
Yeah, you pull a card, it's a $500 autograph. Man, I'm going to get this. I get the $500, I can get another break. No, your plan was to spend $500 in the break. Now take what you got out of that, sort it and process it. Move on to the next break and the next plan, right? So my goal is, and I tell my sons, and this has been painful over the last years, is that grade it before we sell it. And I think I've shared the story about how I get my son to grade his Zion, and then 6 months later, when he sold it for $700, he's like, "Dad, grading makes sense," right? So when I do a break like optic, I'm taking in consideration, okay, I'm buying it this year with the plan I'm selling it next football season, right? Because I'm going to buy it, rip it, send it off to get graded, and I'm going to have it for next season. And I'll even say this, what I like about optic, I do that break, right? I get all those cards coming in, I send them all to Star Stock now, because Star Stock takes optic and they take all the rated rookies for me, so I don't even have to deal with it. Then Star Stock's going to go ahead and they're going to tell me which ones are A's and B's. They're going to sort and scan them for me for value. Then I can pick off a few of those A's and I'm going to submit through them for PSA, and they're going to be back in my account for next summer or next fall, right? So that's part of my process this year.
I want to say hi to some of the people here, but to follow up on that, because breaking or because grading takes so long, are there exceptions to that rule? Because the reason I say that is because if the hype is really high, like entering playoffs, and one team is on a ridiculous streak, do you want to just sell that card raw right then and there versus risk the plummet, and then you get the card graded 8 months or a year from now, and that player is like, oh, that's just a lucky streak and the team sucks, you got cut, whatever else.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is everybody's opinion and do your own research on it, right? Again, basketball to me is not my favorite, but as an example, if I pulled a big Jalen Hurts in optic this year, I might flip that now. I might put it aside, maybe sell it raw because I don't have as much confidence in him in the future. I still have confidence in Tua because I think he's got the mechanics that I'm willing to grade him and wait 12 months, 18 months and see what happens, right? But I do agree. Now, for me in football, the only people I would grade would be quarterbacks. There is not a single wide receiver, running back, in my opinion, worth it. Now, that's my opinion, but there are some good value. You could take a Jerry Jeudy or some of these great wide receivers. I forget the Vikings guy. There's probably good value if you graded it and got it back next year. You probably would make money. I'm not going to disagree with that. It's just not my play. Again, because I will say everybody's got a limited budget. You got to focus. Another thing to think about is it's just that where are you tying up your funds, right? I've got $500 in funds waiting to come back and graded. I can't do other things. So maybe I shrink it. Right?
Yeah. Well, the more funds you have, the more time you can enjoy. The more you can like send things off and have batches. If you only have $500 total, and that's not a lot if you're sending a card out and you only have $400 left or $300 left, and then all of a sudden the fun is gone. Like when everything's used up, it's like the fun is gone. So the movement in a lot of ways is the fun, even if you're leaving the maximum amount of profit on the table. But also, even with that Kobe submission I did where I accidentally did it in 20 days and, which was 3 months versus what I expected, which would have probably arrived in, I don't know, April or sometime. But being able to sell those and reinvest is not only fun because now it's like, all right, what's the next strategy? But if I could double my money once and then double it again and double it again, by the time in the same amount of time as I would have gotten that original batch back and be able to make a 3x profit, while doubling my money several times over in a year is better than making 3x, but it taking the entire year. But then there's also the risk, the reward. There's so many different factors at play. But it's like, it looks like grading is overall just the best strategy. It's just, it takes so much patience right now.
It is. And I'll say, I can't stress, in my opinion, I think grading is very key to people who are coming in the hobby. If you want to build that bankroll, if you came in this year and you're like, I got $100, how do I get to have thousands in the future? It doesn't happen overnight. There's a great video, guy you pointed me out to. Is it Ben Carlos?
Yeah, really nice guy.
Love his channel. And he just does a great job explaining it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's slow. But what I tell people, and again, let me just say this, I'm not an affiliate with StarStock. I love StarStock because to me, they set up a really easy system for you where you can get $25, go on, buy a few cards, pick a card out, send it off for grading. That's $30 to grade. So maybe you have to either make some money or add a few more dollars. But let's say for $50 to under $75, you can pick a card out, send it off for grading every month. And I've told my kids that. So my kids and I, this year, now we were doing this last year, we were submitting through a group sub, but this year we're using our group sub and we're using StarStock. So every month we're going to do at least 4 cards. We each pick at least one and submit that. Now, in the future, when those cards are coming back, man, that's just it's a system, right? You got cards coming in, you're selling, you got cards going out. It just really, like you said, it multiplies over time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I see that with Comp C in a way, but on a smaller scale, because every time I sell a card, I'm not going for the max profit. I'm going for the combination of profit and quickness, knowing that every time I do this, I get a bit sharper. I see what's working, what's not. I'm seeing at what point does someone buy into the hype or take that risk. And the hype just means like this guy should do good in the future, right? It just means this guy should do better in the coming days, weeks, months, based on what just the news that broke or what just happened in the prior game. And so doing this dozens and dozens of times, it makes it so that I don't have to go after the maximum profit, but it makes me go, if I could double my money here, I can get out with such a low risk and I can move that over to something else. And StarStock and CompC just allows that really quick transaction, so you could do a lot of them very quickly. And if you're the first one to read the news or watch the game, you can act so quick versus having to wait to process all this stuff.
It's crazy to me what I don't understand. And I'm sure somebody's watching. There might be an economist out there because I would love to get their insight. If you look at these marketplaces, right? Like I was comparing the other day, StarStock, CompC, and eBay prices. And right now, StarStock prices are really high. as far as Star Stock A's, right? A raw card on Star Stock that has an A will sell for a premium over eBay or ComC. And not only selling a premium, but the velocity is fast. I think I told you this. I just transferred, and the transfer was I took 180 cards. And here's the story. Back in the summer, I sent hundreds of cards to ComC. It took them 6 months to process them. So they just popped out a few weeks ago, and they're in my little thing. I'm looking at them, and they're Shies and Michael Porter Jr.'s and all these base rookie card, Prism cards. I'm going, well, wow, these are going really high on Star Stock. So I priced a few on ComC, and they didn't really move at all. So what I did is I transferred 180 cards to myself, which I paid the express fee. I paid $180 to have those cards shipped to me immediately.
You gotta tell me how it was so much, because I ordered through ComC about 140-ish cards, maybe 20 or 30 in top loaders, and I got it pretty quick. I think it was like 2.5 weeks max.
Mine was less than a week. Mine was the fastest option they had, and it was $179 or $69. And again, I was just moving my own cards to me, and they arrived the other day. I've already got them sorted. Tomorrow morning, I'm shipping the Star Stock. And for Star Stock, I've sorted out which ones are fast pass, which ones they submit first, and they have the other ones. But my reason I bring the story up is that I'm not the only one doing that, right? I'm not the genius. A lot of people are going to be doing that. They're going to be moving from that one platform to the other platform. So in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before this starts to slow down. You can't continue. The other thing that I'm watching on Star Stock, right? Star Stock did their first PSA submission in December, okay, which is where they took cards that were Star Stock A's and they sent them off, and we're going to get those grades back. Now, they hope they're back by the end of January, beginning of February. You just said yourself it took 3 months for 20 days. So let's assume they come back in March. When that first lot comes back, that gem rate will have a huge impact on Star Stock Marketplace. Because if they come back with a high gem rate, let's say 70%, 60%, come back PSA 10s, everybody will be buying up Star Stock A's like there's no tomorrow. If they come back with low gem rates and most of them are PSA 9s, the market could crash there. Because if you look on Star Stock, you can buy PSA 9s for less than raw Star Stock A's.
Wow.
Exactly, right? And a guy did a video on this the other day about comparing PSA, like you can get a PSA 9 Zion for, I think, $285 right now. And his raw card, I think, is selling for $500. So go figure that.
Well, I mean, look, Star Stock A, what I heard was, and they don't look at it under a microscope, because I remember interviewing Scott, but I believe, don't quote me on this, but it was PSA 8 to 10 was the range that they would give. Like the equivalent was 8 to 10, which is a huge range.
Well, they actually said 9 to 10 is what they guessed. But again, in fairness, they don't know. And here's another thing that I thought was interesting. I remember that night you had Scott on. If you remember too, one thing he mentioned was in the card, he gave it a Star Stock C review, or he made a comment, it's probably get a B or C because the logo was misprinted or was off-centered. That's interesting to me because what I'll say is I've seen PSA give 10s to poorly logoed cards. So it's just interesting because in Star Stock's it's the first marketplace that, again, is providing these A, B, and Cs. And what's really big, guys, right now too, the B market is huge. Okay, people are buying and selling B's, Star Stock B's, and making fastly grabbing money, right? They're starting with $25, $50, and they're at hundreds of dollars because there's so much velocity in those Star Stock B's. So Star Stock has created a unique environment where it's not just you have cards, but you have cards that have been reviewed. You have these kind of like, it's almost like bonds. You have like an A-class bond, a junk bond, really, really junk bond. It's interesting. It's very early in the marketplace too. So I can't wait for a smart person with an economist's mind kind of break this down and tell me what's really going on there.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the evolution of Star Stock. And yeah, JJ Bama pointed this out. And I think this is the way to go, is that Star Stock, it's only active players, their rookie cards, and only specific rookie cards. You can't do it all. So for me, I think the perfect balance, because I love ComC because it has everything. And so for learning about cards, for discovering unique cards, old cards, all this, it is a library. And I also love the fact that they're tied to eBay. So a good third or a fourth of my sales, but probably around a third now, go off of eBay. Like it's ComC listings that someone on eBay is buying, and they are paying more because they are buying through eBay, and there's a surcharge there. But it's the same thing for the flipping, for that type of transactions where it's very quick and it's based on play. What my theory is now, or what I want to do is look at the very best rookie cards I have on Comp C and send those to Star. But I had a handful of Nikola Jokic rookie cards where it would say a scratch down the center, and these would not have been Star Stock A, and anything below Star Stock A is a bit too confusing, where I'd rather have the visible picture. Yep. If it's an A and then you're getting back these submissions from PSA saying they're all 9s and 10s, right? If that would, or like 98% or 9s and 10s, and then 1 or 2 of them or 1 or 2% turns out to be an 8, but it's so consistent, at least in 9s and 10s, then let me send those best cards and sell them at a premium on Star Stock as A's. But all the stuff that, you know what, you look at the picture, you know, it's a little bit of white around the corner here, there's a bit of this, then I want that on Comp C. And I've sold cards that are not in great shape on Comp C, you know, not for the same premium, but at least people get to see it. But if that was a Star Stock C, I don't know if that would move.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like I said, it's a bizarre market. I thought in the beginning when I was watching these B's and C's, like, for example, for me, another thing is the boys and I took a lot of our base cards, base rookies, and we shipped them up there with the goal of selling, right? So I'm not flipping. I'm not buying and selling on Star Stock. I'm more or less just selling stuff. And what we first did was we listed and sold all of our B's and C's because we just wanted to get rid of them. And I'll be honest, I accepted any offer. Almost, you know, a nickel, dime, I don't care. I just wanted to get rid of them because I'm thinking, well, they're not worthwhile to me. But then it's funny, when I got into the Star Stock Challenge and I'm watching the other competitors are just, they're at like $1,000. They've doubled their portfolio. Their focus has been on the B's and C's because you can buy, you know, 50 of them for $1. And if they move from $1 to $1.50, your portfolio just went up 50%.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing to me. This, again, it's created a bizarre market. And I'll tell you another thing. If you Google Star Stock on YouTube or just YouTube Star Stock, there's so much new content around Star Stock. It is amazing how much great content's out there.
You know what's weird is that Comp C, I feel like they're established, but they're kind of stuck to how it was, and maybe they're just overwhelmed, right? I don't hear news in terms of big things happening except for hiring. I see that on the front page. I don't know what Comp C's plan is, if they're just like, look, we're going to do our thing, we just want to catch up and we're good, because they have a different niche. But the way Star Stock is evolving, I don't know if they could take enough, they might be able to take enough market share to really hurt Comp C. I'm not sure.
Here's what I suggest to either one of them, right? If you remember, there was a company called Investacard, and they still are around. Investacard, their whole thing was you send them cards, they go ahead and get them graded from SGC, and then they sell the card, and then they split the profit with you. They pay for the grading, and they grade it for you. And their story, and I used Investacard in the summer, was to be a consultant with you. It didn't work very well for me, and there's a lot of reasons for it. There's nothing negative with Investacard. I think part of it was they were using SGC, and the delays took so long that they were under pressure. I've mentioned that because what Star Stock or Comp C should do is offer a concierge service, okay, a premium service for bigger collectors, dealers, where now when I call and I say, hey, I want to grade, I want to grade 10 Star Stock A's, they can go, hey, look in your portfolio here, Ziggy, I recommend doing the Kobe Whites. Or they go here, hey, you want to have this ship back? I can get this expedited ship for you tomorrow, right? They can do special things for me. Or I can say, hey, I just shipped you a package. In the package, it's going to have X, Y. It's going to have graded cards. It has raw cards. You can get the graded cards out for me. I think there's a lot of things that a service could do, whether it's Star Stock or Comp C, to help people like us in the sports card market. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's shipping, grading, sorting, being those eyes for us on those back ends.
You know what I'd like is for Star Stock to have the person that does the A's, B's, and C's, or the person that will send off to grading or something, be a prior PSA grader. Or if they can get someone that was a professional grader, or just something where you know that their judgment is better than someone just hired to look at it and say A, B, or C. But someone like that would mean a lot.
If you're a grader, where do you think you're gonna make more money? You think Star Stock's giving you more money, or you think? I mean, I don't know.
It depends. Hey, if Star Stock's like, look, if we can put your name that you are the person saying this is A or B or C, and you are you've been working for PSA for the last 20 years, and we know we're gonna make so much money from the trust we're gonna have from your name and your experience, and then people are gonna do it and they're gonna see the results. Then
you're right.
I'll pay you.
You're right.
Well,
so in other words, have Star Stock hire away a grader who becomes their eyes. Dude, that's a genius idea. The challenge here, in fact, somebody mentioned this too, is that think about it. If you're that good at grading, why not do it for yourself privately? You know, because if you can go to those shows, pick out the gems, and if your gem rate's a 75, you can. I mean, again, if you're watching this and you're new to the hobby, there is so much money made in the gem rating of cards.
Oh yeah.
Well, I remember one of the first things when I got a card, I bought a graded card, and the person was like, "Yeah, graded cards can sell for 2, 3, or 4x what a raw card is." I'm like, why? Why?
For sure. And dude, I'm seeing a lot of great questions here about sending the PSA yourself or using a third party. I've done both. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, let me mention this. This is a great topic because I was actually talking to somebody about this. Group subs. Okay, let me explain what goes on with a group sub. When a group sub, normally it's somebody who has been subbing for themselves, like, hey man, when I send cards in, if you send me your cards, I get a better deal. They're bundling up to get a discount. My biggest concern, I will say, with group subs is you need to trust the group subber very well. Okay, as an example, the person I use is a guy named Jason Lynn. I've known Jason for probably 5 years. Jason and I were in Facebook groups. We've been friends for years. He started subbing cards, and now I send my cards and he does it. Why is it important? Because if I'm a group sub and I have hundreds of people, 5 people, whatever, sending me cards, and they all send me their base cards, and I submit them, how are they keeping those cards separate? How do they keep Frank's PSA or Frank's trays and Randy's trays and Bill's trays separate? Most of them have a system to do that, but there is a system they have to have that you have to trust. If not, and my biggest fear, and Mojo Breaks did a great point on this, if you are just sending your cards to some group sub that you know nothing about, and they're not numbered cards, why do you think they're going to send you back your cards? And that is, and I'm not saying it's a fraud, but you need to be aware of that. And right now there's a big rush on people. Hey, join my group sub, join my group sub. What I suggest is, look, go to your local sports card store. Most of them provide it. Talk to them because you want to have that confidence. Ask him, hey man, when I give you this card, how do you separate it from everybody else? For example, I know Fantastic Store, when I used to use them, they would take first submission. So if you were the first guy to bring the Zion Silver there, then you could submit the Zion Silver. If you were the second guy, hey, you were the next submission because they weren't going to mix them up. That's a very, very critical thing, right? And again, I know subbing is very popular and people are pushing for it, and they'll tell you too, well, I get special benefits because I'm a sub. And there are some that are grandfathered in that have like 20 days submissions or shorter times, but just beware in subbing. And I'll say that's another thing where I like about Star Stock is that Star Stock really doesn't have any dog in the fight. In fact, if anything, their best interest is those cards come back with high grades.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And the same
credibility. I mean, in terms of their judgment of A's, B's, and C's, if 50% of the A's come back 9s, 20% 8s, and only 30% or so, whatever's left, 10s, then all of a sudden your confidence in what a Star Stock A is plummets, and then you're like, well, what's a B? What's a C? Yeah. So, and Scott explained it to me where they'd rather be too strict than not strict enough. So I think that's where the value of those Bs are, because imagine if people are buying the Bs assuming they're 8s, but really they're 50% 9s, 50% 8s, or 75% 9s, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, these Bs are actually pretty damn good because all the A's came back 10s with a couple exceptions.
Well, here's another good point. So when Star Stock first started, right, I actually pulled some cards down that I did submit for grading. I won't get those back for probably 9 months, right? Because I did 45-day and it'll be a while. Some of them though I brought down, and now I've sent them back to Star Stock, right? Because I realized I can grade through them. But I'm curious to see, will they get an A rating the second time? They came down as A's. When they go back the second time, will they get that A rating? Because you're right, there is a concern there. And I even say this too. A friend of mine pointed out, he goes, I'm more likely now to get Star Stock to grade my card than ask Star Stock to send me a raw card. Because we send the raw card to you. Again, think about this. If you say, hey, Mike, I want the raw card, I'm going to go into the A list and give you a raw card. I'm probably picking them up from the bottom of those pile because I want to keep the better ones to grade for my customers. You see what I'm saying? So there is a little bit of potential human concern there, right? Because you're not, again, there's a Star Stock A barrel that they have all the Star Stock A's in. They're going to pick one out and send it to you when you want it home, and they're going to probably pick the best ones for grading. So it's an interesting market space. It's going to be interesting what happens.
Yeah, I wonder if there's ever a way around it, honestly, though, because there's always people involved. I mean, with grading, there's always subjectivity, there's agendas, there's always different things. I don't know if it's ever going to be perfect, just like eBay. I want eBay to be so much better, but perfection is not really the goal because it's not really attainable. It's always just progress.
Well, again, that's a great point. In every system, guys, perfection does not exist, right? You need what's workable and what's doable.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about anything you know with international investors, because I got Lee over here, I got Ray-Ban, I got a lot of people in Australia and UK, Germany now, and they're like, look, we're getting into cards, we love this, but man, shipping, and I'll throw this back up there for you. Shipping, taxes, customs, all this stuff is just like the biggest pains in the ass possible. I mean, it's pains for us, but then it's like 10 times worse if you're out of the country. Do you have any great resources or ideas for them?
I will say I've heard phenomenal things about Ship My Cards. I believe they offer grading services through them as well. And again, I've heard just phenomenal things about Ship My Cards for international. And I will say, anybody who's international, I always tell them, hey, are you using Ship My Cards? Check it out. I even recommend they check out Card Hour, did a video about how to use it. And what's nice about them, even in Canada, right, is apparently you can use Ship My Cards to avoid taxes because they can use different states for sales taxes. You should definitely look into Ship My Cards. And I do think that's a great example too for grading. I think, like I mentioned, the guy Ben yesterday was talking about how even in Canada, you know, for them to get cards graded, there is a premium. My question, and I don't know, is StarStock available internationally? Like,
I thought it was, because I talked to Scott about it a while ago, saying, yo, I have people asking how in the world I do this with CompC and the money exchange and all this stuff. I said, please tell me that with StarStock you offer international. And I think one of the biggest perks of StarStock that I do not believe CompC currently is the ability to buy directly from the US and send to the headquarters. Like CompC, you have to print out a label and include it in your packaging. StarStock, it's all online. So if you buy from a breaker, it can go straight to StarStock without it going all the way to you across the world and then back to
I think you're right.
One state over.
I would say that too. Again, if you're international, I would look at finding a way to use StarStock because it can be a platform that you can use to grade. That grading fee, $30 for, I think it's 25 or 20 day. It's not bad. I mean, it's not the best deal. It's not the cheapest deal at all, but it's not bad. You can also consider they're doing the screening and wiping or whatever for you. But again, if I was international, I'd look at that. I like that turnkey system.
What's your knowledge with PWCC Vault? Because I've bought from them on eBay several times. And of course, if you bought from PWCC, they'll send you an email saying you can pay for this on eBay and it'll be $300. But if you pay through PWCC Vault, you save on sales tax because we're up in, I think, Oregon, and we send it to our vault, and here's the fees to keep it in our vault, but it's pretty low. And then so you could actually have it sent to their vault and then relist it in the future. I've gotten confused as to how in the world to do that via eBay, but the idea I think is great. Are you familiar with PWCC and how they operate?
I mean, I am, but I honestly have never used them for buying or selling. And I will say, I just heard recently that they took some criticism because apparently they're hiding the bids or the bidders now.
Oh, really? Okay, because I know Probstein, that would annoy me too when I look at some of those consigners. And I want to talk to eBay about that because I don't have a problem with taking out the letters of the username so much. I want to see the feedback. And I think when it says privately bid, I want to see that 1 or that 6 or that 4.
Yeah.
And if those low bids where it like goes all the way up or it keeps repeating, no, you know what, let me back out of this one because it looks like someone might be attempting to manipulate the price. Yeah. And like, I don't need to see the names. I really just want to see the feedback.
You know, it's funny. Mentioning that, I was looking, you know, of my last year as far as spending behaviors. What did I spend money on? What did I buy? What did I do? So for the boys and I, we spent more money this year on tops than we did in any prior year ever before. We also spent more money on tops, and the Panini products we bought were mainly through breaks, right? We broke down. We didn't buy many singles, and we bought singles. We did buy it nows. I don't think we did any auctions this year. Right, which is what I'm mentioning that because I personally don't like auctions. I don't like selling in auctions, and I don't like buying in auctions. In fact, one of the questions I think we were talking about the other day is how do you price a 1 of 1? Well,
this was a question I've got, so it's a good transition, and I just want to lay it all out. I get this question a lot. how do I know how much to pay for or sell a cracked ice prism numbered in 99 of this player, when if you look up the sales data, the last one sold 6 months prior, when the market was completely different, the player was completely different, the season was completely different, all that, and it's not relevant. What would be your way of going about it?
So let me start with the one-on-one. When I get a one-on-one, the first thing I do is I go to the Facebook group. There's a Facebook group for one-on-ones. And it's one of the only groups that basically lets you kind of what we call fish the deal. You can basically show it off. Hey, I just hit this one-on-one. Because there's no pricing, you don't really need to put a price. And then you'll get people who might be interested in that player will say, hey, do you want to sell it? And then that's a great way to start finding buyers and gauging interest and gauging value. You can also find other people who sold on there. Another thing I'll do too is I'll put it on eBay, buy it now.
Yeah.
Price.
Yeah.
And then I'll take the offers and I will show the offers in my Facebook groups. Hey guys, I have a one-on-one. High offer right now is 500. Does this seem fair? Does anybody want this? Because I would rather sell on the Facebook group, right, than sell to the guy making the offer.
Dude, you know, it's so funny with you mentioning that. This is the last picture in my phone here. So like, this is just a picture. Yeah. And this was the Kobe Crusade PSA 10. And I just got an offer today for 600 and I have it listed at 800. And it's one of those cards where I don't know what the limit is. I think like, even if there's 3,000 of them produced, it could be one of those cards that could be $1,000. I don't know. But I only have, I actually have two. But I told two guys here in LA that I've already done business with. I said, look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on eBay for $800. I don't expect it to sell for that. But if there's a price that I'm willing to accept, I'll at least give you the first dibs at it.
Yep.
And like, to me, so this is more like, what is someone willing to pay? The testing the market price. Yep. If someone buys it now, you got it, man. Like, you got it at $800. But if someone's just putting in these offers and there's one that I'm considering, I'll at least approach one of the guys I've done business with for a few reasons, but one of which is like, I love that relationship, you know, building that, but also there's a level of trust that's established from prior business where we've done business outside of eBay and it's gone smooth on both ends. But in terms of the one of one, if you wanted to buy a one of one or a one of five, how would you know what's a fair price to pay?
Again, so on that, I mean, when you're looking for comps, I would look at some of the research like 130 point, and I'll even say this: I don't think the current data tools are good ways to look for comps. It's not market movers, it's not car ladder, in my opinion. I would look at 130 point. There were some other good historical ones that have great historical data for you. And then I also look at comparables. In other words, let's say you pulled a player's number to 5 from this year's rookie class in some sport. I'd look at what was last year's rookie class of that player from that draft class, that draft rank, that draft position. What did something in that area sell for, right? Yeah. And I remind people too, when we talk about comps and value is what the last person was willing to pay. It doesn't mean that everyone was willing to pay that price, right? For example, one thing that kind of concerns me, everybody talks about market cap of a card, right? Oh, this card's got a huge market cap. You know, it's got billions of dollars, whatever. That's assuming that, okay, a Luka card, let's say there's 10,000 Luka cards out there and the last one sells for $2,000. You then calculate the market cap is 1,000 times 2,000 and figure out the number. Well, I want to remind you, you're not going to find 1,000 buyers at the same time, all willing to pay $2,000. So it's not like stocks where the market cap is equal, right? Last comp is just the last person willing to buy that. This last year, what's been surprising is the last person. There's always another new last person. The prices have been going up so much, but you have to understand historically, just because a card sold, you know, at $500 and you've got one too, doesn't mean you're going to get $500 for it. You might get 6, you might get 4, right? So again, it's just, you have to gauge value. And I'll say this too, for myself, I often sell a card leaving value on the card. I want the person to get value. And I never regret if I sell a card to somebody and that card goes up for more, I'm not mad that Brad got the card and it's now worth 10. I'm excited for Brad.
Me too. I'm really excited.
You know, people like me, they start, oh, look at the money I lost because I sold these cards early. You didn't lose money, man. You know, and you also, if anything, you push positive energy future because that other guy just made money and he's more excited too. You know, it's better.
Well, you know what I would add to that is that, look, I've gone for max price before and you go off the cliff, right? It's just, you know, you think of the chart and you're going off the cliff. And when you can sell at a profit you're happy with, and then if it goes up 2x again or whatever, that's fine. Like, let someone else take that risk because they're higher risk, higher reward type of person. Like, they believe in that player long term, or that they'll go on a more of a streak. But in order to know that you're giving it up perhaps before its peak, I think it shows a good amount of discipline in terms of, this is the price I'm happy with, and now I can apply this over and over again. I think that's more of my comfort zone, where like, I'm afraid of going off the cliff. So I'd rather get out 10 yards before than, get closer and closer and get off 1 foot before I go over. And yes, you would make the most amount of money. But I would say if you did the math of, what if I got off the roller coaster or out of the car going towards the cliff a couple meters before every single time, would I be better off that way? Or would I be better off going to the extreme limit and trying to be the last person to sell at that price? And you do that and you succeed 30% of the time, but you go off the cliff and you're on the way down the other 70%. What would be the better return? And personally, I'd rather just play here's my formula, let me duplicate it, let me get smarter with every transaction so that the 2X's become easier and easier. And then maybe I got a 3X or something like that, or even 50% margin, something like, versus go for the home run every time. And, I'd rather be hitting doubles all day long than striking out, hoping for that one grand slam that might never come, or, it would have come the next go around, but I'm out of money.
Also, again, just think about this. How many products in the world can you sell at twice of what you buy it at? I mean, that in itself is just wild. So be happy when you make it. Like, I'm one of those guys that says you can't go broke by taking a profit. If you have a car and you make 50%, 10%, whatever, he made money, man. Be happy.
Well, what's funny is when I started looking into cards, I remember thinking to myself, I wanted to put my money into something. And if you put your money in the market, just normally it'll go up about 8 to 10 or 11% on like a historical level. And I'm like, all right, well, what if I could put in $50,000 in cards and I can get $5,000 back, and have fun? I thought that was the coolest thing. Yeah. And then, of course, you get jaded because then you make some big sales. And if you look at me and Andy's early sales on Star Stock, he'd be buying a card for $1.50, selling for $2.45. But percentage-wise, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But then you get jaded and you're like, no, I want this $2 card to be 12. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, well, that's not reasonable. That's like turning this into a get-rich-quick scheme versus, hey, there's some money to be made. There's money to be lost. There's fun to be had. And this could be a very sustainable hobby if we do it right. And I got to always remind myself when I'm turning down that card that someone offered $600 for, and I paid $10 plus $25 to get graded. I'm like, am I really turning that down? And yeah, like maybe I'll accept it now that I talk to myself about it.
Which is also why I'll say this too. What's great about the hobby is that people will accept deals because their situation, right? So, for example, in Star Stock, you'll see deals go down for lower amounts. I'll even accept cards. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to sell this card. I'll take $5 for it, even though maybe it's sold before we're 10. So you're right. It's just about timing, right? Mm-hmm. It's about what people find value in the card at that moment. So,
yeah. And everyone has a different strategy. Everyone looks at a player difference. Everyone looks at the short term versus long term. And there's a lot of great questions here. I wanted to ask you, and let's answer some of these questions in a bit, but I wanted to get your picks for the Super Bowl. Who's going to win and who's going to lose?
So it's funny you say that. I'm going to go Chiefs. I mean, I know that's such a typical thing. I really think the Chiefs have a road to it. I think there's just some advantages with the whole COVID thing. I think they got a great team. And then on the NFC side, I think the Saints will make to the Super Bowl. I just don't see it being the Packers, and I'm sorry I don't see it being Tom Brady. But I do think it's Saints and Chiefs, with Chiefs winning.
Well, okay. So for one, I hope you're wrong, obviously. But I will say that I bought 2 Michael Thomas, I think they were PSA 9 Prism. I think it was silver that year. Rookie cards for like $60 a piece. And it was one of those things where I'm like, you know what? If he returns and the Saints make a run and he just explodes, that could be a solid 2X flip. Yep. But if not, the prices were so low because his season was just a disaster that beginning of next season, I'm sure they'll be at least at what they're at, just based on how low they've been. But hopefully 80 or 100 or 120 or something, who knows? But that would be, I think that's the cool thing, is hedging your bet, being like, I hope I can't sell my Michael Thomas cards till next season, but if I can, like if the Bucks lose and the Saints go on, then at least I have that money in my pocket.
Well, it should be a wonderful weekend, though. We got 6 games, great matchups. You will see some volatility in those cards, though. I mean, you definitely will. It'll be fun just kind of watching. Like I said, I honestly do not have much invested this year's in football cards. I sold off most of my Lamars. I think I have a few Mayfields around that might see some movement. And I have Tua, but he's not in the playoffs and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to the weekend. And also, I'll say what I love is basketball. You get basketball sprinkled in. It's funny. I always talk about how because of sports cards, like I always love sports, but because of sports cards, I love sports more. Like I watch League Pass on NBA, not because I really care about the game, but I care about the stats and the players. You know, it's just sports cards make sports so much more fun. It really does.
Well, I mean, I think it's just like with fantasy football, you start liking other teams and other players because you've invested in them in some sense. And for me, okay, well, we'll get to Cobra Kai in a second, because if you guys haven't seen Cobra Kai, it's a phenomenal show that I accidentally started watching. I thought it was a movie, and then it said, next episode. I'm like, oh God, I just got wrapped into this, this
How did you what brought you into it? Did somebody recommend it, or you stumbled across it?
#1 on Netflix. It said #1 on Netflix. I'm like, oh, this looks like a good movie. And I clicked on it, and then turns out, the last 3 nights I've just been on that tear. But there's a lot of similarities between Cobra Kai and sports cards, and the whole hobby that we'll touch on in a bit. Yeah. But going back to basketball, now I'm checking scores of all these different teams. I'm seeing how these players are doing. And I'm a Magic fan, which is pretty much, we've been irrelevant since Dwight Howard was in his prime back in 2010-ish. And that's the last time I was really a fan. And now I'm like, okay, I'll watch the Magic. And I know they're doing quite well overall. Markelle Fultz had that horrible injury. Yeah, really a disaster there. Very, such a shame. But it's one of those things where I'm like, all right, I can follow the Magic, but I could also watch these other teams because I love Damian Lillard and I have a lot of his cards. I like other players. But it just made it so much more fun to watch other teams. Because now I'm a fan of the entire league versus just my team and my one favorite player.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It really, and that's why I'll say this too, real quickly. I want the leagues to stop doing exclusive licensing, because I think it's so important that we have competition in the hobby, because it really does. Sports cards make sports better, right? If you have more people in sports cards, it's going to make sports better. All these leagues grow. But when you stymie and you take away competition and you make people frustrated, you're going to turn people off. Like there are people who are turned off because of retail sports. So I can't say enough about how the two complement each other. Sports have definitely gotten hotter and hotter with sports cards.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why that figure that you had, if you have it next to you and people are just joining, do you have it next to you, that Luka figure? And this was limited to what, $9.99, correct?
1,000 of these guys.
1,000. Okay. So again, if sports cards and limited editions really start taking off, I think it opens the door to figures like this, memorabilia. And like I was telling you earlier, Ziggy, if Panini or Topps came out with their own figures and there was a rookie card, like a rookie figure, a Zion rookie figure, his first year figure, I'm like, it sounds crazy now, but would that really be so crazy in a few years, where some of them were parallels, like different jerseys, like limited to 500, like that other Luka? If some were autographed, if some had some sort of differences that make them rarer, just like the parallels of a lot of these cards.
I love the idea. What I don't like what you says, I just don't want it to be Panini and Topps. Like there's no reason, in my opinion, Small Stars, who's the company who made this, who I'm not working for, but just like the product, they could take these, and if they could get a license with autographs, and they could put Luka autographs on these shoes, or maybe get artists to put, different stuff. I mean, there's just so much potential here. It's really cool.
It's super cool. The reason I said Panini and Topps is I think the association would bring a lot of people over. Like there'd be a trust of, okay, I understand that their rookie cards are worth this, then the figures would be worth. That looks like a computer rendering. Like it looks so
well, it really is. The detail's gorgeous. I mean, it's a really cool piece, man.
And I want to go to Luka's hairstylist, because everything's on point there. I look like a shaggy dog right now, but look at the hair on Luka. Look how on point that is.
When it comes packaged, he has a plastic helmet on that protected the head.
Sick.
The packaging was phenomenal. I love it, man. I love it. It's gonna be my breaking tool. So when we break stuff, the boys and I will have Luka helping us rip cards open.
That sounds good. It's a great prop too. Let's talk a bit about Cobra Kai, because if you guys haven't seen the show, it's the sequel to the Karate Kid, and so it's what, like 30 years later, something like that.
So here's an interesting story, and someone else can confirm this. My understanding was the first season was made by YouTube as a premium series for when YouTube was selling their content. And then they sold that with season 2 to Netflix. And they dropped season 1 and season 2 on Netflix, I want to say this summer, because my sons and I watch it. And the reason I asked you how you found it was because my son, who's 11, was into it. He loved it. And we binge watched the first 2 seasons over the summer. And then after he watched it, then he went and watched all the Karate Kid movies. So when season 3 came out, he was really excited. And I do love it because we were talking about this. First of all, I love it's just the nostalgia. It reminds you of the 80s. Like for me, I remember Karate Kid. Like I remember ripping Topps 86 baseball cards, going to the Boys and Girls Clubs and taking karate. Like it was yesterday. It was just popular then. So when you see the show, it's like it all just kind of comes back. I love it. And like you said, the synergies about, the rivalries and the codes and, kind of the collector versus investor. There's the no mercy versus, defense versus attack theory, right? So
yeah, what I love about it is that, look, and here's the crazy thing. You don't have to watch Karate Kid to enjoy the show, because I actually never watched Karate Kid. I've never seen Karate Kid. I've seen bits of it. I've seen references in How I Met Your Mother and different shows. I've never seen the movie. But the point is that, look, in this hobby, there's always this what's that?
Will you go watch them now?
Yeah, of course.
First one's the best, man. You've got to watch the first one.
Okay. Well, of course, I have to start there. I wouldn't start with the second one. But
it's an iconic movie.
I know. Dude, I'm not that's the thing. I watch the same movies over and over again because I'm nervous that I'll watch one I don't like. It's weird. But anyway, there's always this collector versus investor. It's this group or that group. And I think what's phenomenal about this show, and if you watch other shows that portray this, is, perception is reality. And if one event happens and then that person sees it, but they didn't see the moment before, or they didn't see the backstory. I think the backstory is the number one word. Then all of these judgments or these perceptions get made. And I think that was the one reason I got off of Instagram back in April. I stopped posting because I was like, COVID's happening and everyone's thoughts is going out, but there's not room for a discussion. There's not this, hey, how can we be solution-minded and open and honest in this long dialogue where we could really go deep. It was more just this is what I think, here it is. And then this is what I think, here it is. And without anything of depth. And so, I don't know, man, it's just been an interesting week where I've heard different things mentioned about me. And I feel like I've never felt better about what I'm doing and the value I'm trying to offer people.
Yeah, well,
I always feel like there's always this misconception, and it always comes down to lack of communication, like you mentioned in your video, miscommunication, but it's just never really.
But you said it earlier, Brad, when you mentioned you liked about the Cobra Kai where they give you the backstory, right? So for the audience here, in Cobra Kai, what's cool about this, if you watch Karate Kid, you get the Ralph Macchio point of view, right? This is a kid who moves to the neighborhood. He gets bullied by these boys who are picking on him. He needs to do karate, right? When you watch the Cobra Kai story, you watch it from the other kid's perspective, the other guy who's now an adult. In his perspective, it's he has his girlfriend, and this new kid comes around and takes his girlfriend away.
Yeah.
And what's amazing, and your point really is that we don't know other people's stories. We see one side of it. And somebody once said to me before, he goes, you have to remember, Michael, in every story, there's 3 sides to a story. There's your side, their side, and then there's the truth.
Yeah.
It's not that we lie. It's that we tell stories with our perception, our perspective, our influence. And you're right. The one thing that I've learned this week in the hobby and is reemphasizing Cobra Kai is communication, and also understanding that other people, what their situation is. And I'll give you a perfect example. Everybody complains about retail and about you can't find retail. When you walk to the retail, there's some kid over there in the retail section. He's been waiting for hours. He must be a bum, right? Because he has no job and he's getting all the retail and he's flipping it. And he's a flipper. And we start saying all these things. I know some of these people. Some of them are college students who are trying to go to college, who are making money. Some of them might be out of jobs. Or, we just don't know. We all need to realize, we're all human beings first, right? We really are. Second, we share passion or common for collecting and cards. And we'd be lying, any of us would be lying if we said we didn't share an interest in money. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we need a certain amount in order to continue to scale up, to do things. And, you know, the way I see it is that every video I put out is a little business of its own, right? That one video I have, sports card investing 101, what cards to buy, and it was just basic. That one has netted me like over $400. So I'm like, that's a nice little business right there. That helps me buy this microphone here. That helps me buy this camera. But everything is an exchange of value. So I'm always about like, what is the most amount of value I can bring? And that's the mission, because everything will come with offering the most amount of value. Like that's the way I've just perceived it.
I think one of the challenges though, Brad, is that people, you know, and I will say I'm guilty of this as well, is we have envy. Right. So like, I love your channel, what you're doing, but there's times people are going to be watching, go, damn, how is he making that much money? Why are people watching his channel? Why does he have 7,000 viewers or whatever you're at now? You know, and I think that envy is then why people start poking holes at each other. Well, he's telling the wrong story, or he's hyping, that's how he gets views, or he's doing this, right? We need to step back sometimes and realize, you know, and I'll say this, I've been critical myself, and a few of you guys in chat can even attest this, right? When I started this YouTube last year, I was a defensive father and had 4 boys, and every boy wanted to get in every Patreon channel. I'm like, stop all this goddamn Patreon channels. I can't afford it all. And when I realized, look, these people there's nothing bad about that. Just everybody has a different perspective, a different spin. I applaud those people who try to provide free content, you know, who try to guide. And you and I have talked over the year, Brad. I love what you're doing. I love the fact you've kept your content very open and available. I love your newsletter. And I think what you found is that you can make money in the hobby through your subscription, through your viewers, your streaming, through your experiences, through your own buying and selling. And I think that's something that everybody should, you know, take in perspective. Is that everybody's got a different way to make, you know, and they might have a different reason too. You know, some people are buying so they can buy more cards. Some people are actually paying bills with the money. So
yeah. Well, I mean, like, we don't know whose mom is in the hospital that doesn't have insurance, right? We don't know that kind of stuff. And, you know, I want to be on ESPN. I want ESPN to reach out and say, look, we're doing a segment on sports cards. We need a panel. We saw you on YouTube. That's one of my visions. But the more I grow on YouTube, and the more, like, I've invested thousands of dollars in learning YouTube and on-camera hosting over the last few years in LA. I mean, I've learned that, and I'm like, man, that costs so much money. But what if at some point I could put a group of people together and take 3 hours a week for the next 9 weeks and really invest a lot of time to help them develop their station based on all this that I've learned and applied, and charge a fraction of it, of the amount, and it's worth it for them. And it's, you know, they would have paid twice as much, but I feel good about it. I'm sustaining myself. And I think that is the key of a business. It's always, whatever project or whatever company it is how can I offer a product or service at a price where someone says, wow, I would have paid even more for that. Like that, to me, that is the idea of a great value exchange.
It is. It's just, I tell you what it is. It's weird. Even part of me, I guess a collector part of me, when you hear people talk about it, I guess part of them turns off. Like the other day, I was waiting for some retail with some friends, and there was this guy there with his wife and his daughter, his family there. And the reason is because for every person there, you get an item. He brought his family, so they get 3 items versus me, I get 1 because I'm one person. Now, I also know that his wife and his daughter have no interest in the cards. He has no interest. He's just doing it to sell them. And part of me is like irritated by it. But again, that envy in me, because I thought to myself, I should get my 3 boys and not have 4 of us, right? The envy in me, I have to again just go, you know what, man, that's just the way it is. What's the big deal? He's hustling it for it. That's his hustle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, the Cobra Kai thing, if you're watching Cobra Kai, the thing that you're watching there is, if you could put all these people in the same room together, you could all talk, you realize we're all on the same page. You all want to do the same thing, you know?
Well, we're all looking for the same things overall in life, you know, love, fulfillment, happiness, and all of our conditioning and all of our perception is based on everything that's happened in our past and everything that's come into our ears and our eyes, and that shapes how we look at ourselves and everyone else. And that is the lens at which we look at the world. It's just, that's our lens, right? Perception. That's our perception. That's not reality. And I think that show just does a great job of saying, hold on, here's their side. This is why even that like Kreese dude, who's like the biggest villain, you see, he was bullied back in the 60s or 50s or whatever. But and you're like, okay, like Joker. If you guys haven't seen it, Joker's a really good movie where you're like, dude, this guy's crazy. He kills people, but hold on a second, he has one messed up backstory.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to spend too much time on that, but I just really feel like it's not even in the hobby, it's in the world. Like if we could just be like, dude, what's their backstory? Oh yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure it's exactly the way it would be to lead this person up to their exact thoughts and way of life at this point.
Yeah. Well, again, I think the one thing, and I said this in my video, and I said to the people, we communicate so much today, but we don't. You know what I'm saying? Like we IG, we text message, we put a video and someone replies to a video. But how many times do we have a conversation? You know, we really sit down and talk to each other. And there have been some great, in fact, I've made a lot of great friends by picking up the phone and calling, you know, I've spoken to you on the phone. I've spoken to Andy on the phone, other people. We just have a good conversation. And I'll say that I encourage more people to do that. You know, if you're in the hobby and you're doing a lot of deals with somebody, get his phone number, give him a call, talk to him, ask him how he's doing, ask him how his life is, if he's healthy, how's his job, you know, just what you'll realize is we have so much more in common. You know, I will say, I mentioned it in my video. I am, you know, I'm going to stop doing the daily show right now. I'm taking a break. I am not going away. I'm just taking a break and uncompress, come back with something new and different. I've got a lot of great ideas. I've got some videos that I've already made that I'm going to be dropping. In fact, I'd made one the other day on time capsules. Did I drop that one yet or not? But what the boys and I did is we took some retail boxes that we collected and we sealed them up. And the goal is to hold those for a year. So a year from now, we open up that time capsule. Little creative ways that you know, we're going to make the hobby a little more fun and just going to kind of share that. But, you know, just, I guess going back to the Cobra Kai thing, communicate, talk to people, you know, and we all really are in the same dojo, as you said, you know, we just have different styles, different ways we approach stuff.
Yeah. I totally agree. And, yeah, I mean, the thing is, the hobby was so great back in March and April because it was the coolest, best escape, especially with other escapes like sports not actually happening. So this was the place of positivity. And of course, with so much growth, there comes 10 times the amount of people, 10 times the amount of perspectives and goals and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool. And that's normal. I don't think there's a way of avoiding that. But at the end of the day, like, sports cards should be a joy. It should be a highlight in our life. And if it's not, then I think we're doing it wrong, personally.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, and for the most part, they are. I mean, like I said, there's more good in the hobby than anything else. You're going to have issues. You have people are going to have, you know, personalities. It's been a tense year. It's been a really tense year, I think, for people. But I'll say this, it's been a great release. I mean, 2020 has been so much fun looking back, the friends I've made, the people I've talked to, the things I've learned. I'm just super excited. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of great friends in the chat here. I love a lot of these channels. In fact, it's a little bit of a withdrawal to not watch channels. I can't explain that. Like today, I have not watched any YouTube. It's like the first day. I'm serious. I'm not watching any YouTube today.
Wow.
I'm planning to disconnect this weekend. Like I'm not going to try to do Instagram and stuff. But at the same time, I've got some phenomenal ideas for some content that's going to come out in the future. I did some great videos that I have in the back that I'm going to get out. So I'm not going away. I'm just regrouping, rethinking things.
It's not goodbye. It's see you later.
Yeah, and also I'd say this too. I want to help more, so I can help other people. Let me know. You know, I'm always looking to promote other people, direct other people, help them get their channels going. I'll mention this again. I love that guy's channel you mentioned the other day, Ben Carlos. Loved his channel.
Guys, check out Ben Carlos's channel. I think it's just Ben Carlos, but really nice guy. Pure, just like happiness and great quality videos, but just a very nice dude I connected with months and months ago. And then he just started his station, I believe, a few weeks, but it's phenomenal. Like, I want to hire him as my editor because it's like, it's damn good.
Well, I love this video. He talks about, he goes, hey guys, you know, I made money. I doubled my money. He goes, let me tell you the secret to investing. It's not investing. Just have fun. You know, he says, and his goal is he buys a card, it hits 2x, he sells it. And sometimes it goes to 3 or 4. He just was so real and so honest. And just, Ben, if you're watching, man, we need to have more people like you. I love what you're doing, Brad, because you mentioned people like that. You've inspired people like that. I mean, you've been a fan for me over the year. I know that I texted you over the summer when I thought about not doing the channel, and you gave me advice about focusing. You gave me advice about content. And I think that's really exciting when you look at what's going out there. A lot of other YouTube content providers I see here, you know, Flipping Steve, I love his channel. Michael Ham's channel. I don't know. I love the hobby.
I mean, look, as we look in the community, I've said this many times, the highlights is never the card for me. I love the strategy and the community. The card is just a way to connect with people about a common old hobby of mine that's reconnecting me to my youth, and for me to use my strategic analytical mind to be able to play a game of it. But if I was in a room by myself with all the cards and no one to talk to, I'd be miserable. Right? Like this is the highlight right now. And it's like, it sounds all hallmarky, but that's it. You know, that's why the transactions, the strategy, look what I did. This went right. This went wrong. That's the fun. I think that's why even Star Stock, they do well, because they realize this is what people can do for fun.
When I got Luca, I couldn't wait to show my hobby friends Luca, right? I mean, let's be honest, because no one else is going to think Luca's cool. You're going to think Luca's cool. You know,
it's the conversation. Yeah, it's the conversation. That's the coolest part. But anyway, it's been an hour 10. How much time do you have left? Want to take a couple questions, or you got to go? I'm
totally up to you, but I know I know long content can drag on for people. So yeah, let's definitely do some questions. Super.
Yeah, well, look, if you have a question, something specific for Ziggy, put it in the comment section right now. We'll take 2 or 3 of them before Ziggy hops off. I know this is his last bit of content or new content for a while, so I want to keep him on here for an extra 15 minutes.
Absolutely. And again, like I said, if you guys have questions, please reach out. I'm not going to be doing anything this weekend, but I'm always around, and I love helping people out. So let me also say, too, by the way, I had a great conversation, by the way, with Jeremy at Sports Live today, so I'm super excited about that. So I want to say I think the mojo in the hobby is very positive. And I really appreciate so many people out there who sent me messages today, who've been supportive and understand. Andy, for example, and I'm referring to Andy at Sports Card Investigator. Had a great conversation with him. Andy at Fantasy Football Card Quest, also great friend, spoken to him. So super excited, man.
I think at our core, when we're in the hobby, we're all wanting the same thing, and we're all looking for escapism and some way to just have fun and make some money if possible. But yeah, I think it's getting back to that. But there's a couple questions here I wanted to.
I see one on hockey cards. So I will say I'm really interested in hockey cards. What I did, the boys and I bought a bunch of retail hockey, and we did buy a hobby box, and we put that into one of my time capsules. We're going to hold that. And the reason we're doing that is because we're going to wait and see what happens with the Lafayette guy. If he's hot, that product's going to be awesome. We can go ahead and rip it. If not, a year from now, we go ahead and sell the hockey. We can flip it and buy baseball or something like that. So I'm optimistic on hockey, but I don't know enough about it. And another thing I'm waiting to is I'm waiting for Star Stock to do hockey. Because what I always think about is if I'm going to open something like that, in fact, it's so funny. If I'm going to open it, I need to know what I'm going to do with it. How am I going to process it? How do I sell it? Is it going to MOC or ComC? Is it going to Star Stock, wherever it is? So I have some sealed soccer as well that I'm holding on to. Okay.
That's a great answer. And yeah, it was funny. Lee put, for one, yes, I'm a 1 hour piss guy, but I can hold it for another 10 minutes. Let's talk a bit about baseball. Randy Rosarina, I actually know his name because he played for the Rays, and unfortunately the Rays lost in the World Series. But what's up with him? What's your thoughts there?
I would tell you, I'm not a big baseball expert. I would recommend talking to Les Alex on that. But I will say I did buy his card on Star Stock. And just because I saw it was cheap. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with him because he was kind of a flash in the pan last year. What's another one I'll just mention? I bought Tatis at like $30 on Star Stock. He's at $100 on Star Stock now.
Wow.
That is crazy.
What'd you sell for, or are you still holding?
I sold one at like 90. The other ones I'm planning to grade, so I haven't sold those. But I was just, again, so Randy, I'm interested in. I think he was really cheap.
Okay, so my question with Tatis, look, I've been looking into baseball very minimally, just because if it's an off season, I want to look in and get some of the basics, some of the ones that are undervalued that are just easy 50% to 2x returns. And Tatis was one of those guys that, just looking at the charts and doing my email every week, he's one of the best players, right? Like hands down, one of the best in the league.
19 class, yeah.
Where his price is that cheap, because like some of the other guys I was looking at, the Mike Trouts and Mookie Betts. Obviously, Mookie Betts won the World Series, and so I can't imagine his prices dropped too much. But how could that price be so low if they're up to $100 and we're still 2 months away? What's it like? It's April, right? March or April that we have the opening day.
So baseball to me is weird because honestly, before 2020, the real value in baseball cards was autographs, and it really was the Bowman first autographs. The Topps flagship product did well, and a lot of times it was refractors and stuff. But in the last year, with the rise of base cards, baseball has just taken off. In fact, what I still recommend is one of the best investments is just buy a complete set of baseball. They sell them in the stores, and strip the sets down, because every set has all the rookies in it. And what I'll do is I'll buy 3 or 4 of those sets every year, and I strip down the sets, and I send 3 or 4 of every rookie, or not every rookie, but the rookies I want to grade to get graded. Boys and I are going to strip down some sets this weekend. And I like doing that because, again, I get everybody. But like I said, I normally in the past was a Bowman guy. I would always buy Bowman, and I like Bowman because I like prospecting. But the baseball market's changed a lot. So I don't want to mislead you. I don't know why Randy's so low and why Tatis is so high. It's crazy. And again, if Les is paying attention, he can check
here earlier.
It doesn't make sense to me why the Star Stock A Tatis is at, I think, $90 or something like that. I think you can get a raw one on eBay for like 50 or 40 or I don't know.
And when did you buy for 30?
Probably over the summer.
Oh wait, after the season, after they were eliminated, after
it was probably during the season I was buying Tatis.
Okay.
It makes no sense. And these are paper, series 1, right? Series 2, I forget.
Okay. Well, just wondering. What do you think of this question here? Breaking, getting regulations. Could you ever see that happening?
I could see that happening. It's so interesting. Breaking had a huge boom a few years ago. I mean, it was very big, and I want to say I think breaking started self-regulating. And what I mean by that is there were a lot of, and again, people remember this. Brandon Cooks to 99 was a case of some fraud going on in the hobby. It's interesting. If I saw regulations coming in, I think it would come in somewhere else first over breaking. Just my opinion.
Okay. Okay. Like where? I mean, what other?
In grading and in manufacturing. For example, if you look at this, if I'm the U.S. government, I'm going to look at this and go, there's manufacturers who are basically printing money. And every time they print this money, every time the transactions take place, I'm missing out on tax income, right? Think of all the tax income the U.S. government is not getting in sports cards, because for every transaction that takes place on eBay, there's probably 3 that took place in some underground, network. So if I wanted to, I'd want to regulate how much these guys, like right now, it's kind of like a printing press. I'd want to go and say, Panini, you can't print, unlimited amount of stuff. You need to regulate it because it's now become a commodity almost. I do think, again, if you look at the fractional ownerships, they could bring regulation to the market. And if regulation, again, the other thing that would come in is I'd say you have to have competition. You can't have exclusive licensing. Because if Panini's the only one who can print it, so I think if regulations come in, that's where it would come in first.
Okay, so let's follow up with this, and I forgot what I was going to say. Actually, let's answer this right here. No, this is what I was going to say. Is that how ironic is it that the government will just print money left and right, but then they'll be like, "Hey, what are you doing over there? You can't print those cards without regulation. Only we can do it." But
I'll put it this way. Think of it this way. The banks became very aware to Bitcoin. Okay, there is some federal regulation in Bitcoin. Why did that happen? That was it is a internet sprung up economy, very much like sports cards are. And there's a lot of that. And the other reason why this could bring attention, guys, is think about all the dark money that can be laundered through sports cards. If I want to cross the border with $10,000 in cash, I can't. If I want to cross the border with a bunch of Lucas, no one's saying anything to me. So that's where regulation would come in my opinion.
Well, okay. I mean, I think this would be the last point of it. Are you familiar with any regulations with artwork or other collectibles that could easily transfer over? Because I don't know of any of that.
It's a great question.
Okay. Well, that's something, it might just pan out over the next couple of years. And one of my bold predictions, and if you want to make a bold prediction with this question by Rudy for 2021, in that last live stream, I said, I believe 8 million was the number I said. That would be a new record high for a card, was $8 million. I don't know what card, but that would be my bold prediction for 2021. And I think, you get into numbers like that, you really got to look at regulation, because now we're talking like, okay, someone's got to be involved to make sure this is going right, because there could be some huge.
Here's something I thought about today, right? If I'm a movie maker, right? Let's say I make movies. I want to do a documentary. I want to do content. Listen, I want to do a documentary. I'm going to do a documentary on an athlete. But before I do that, I go buy all the cards for him, because it's like every time a documentary comes out, this freaking card goes up. And I want to warn people, The Michael Jordan example was a flash in the pan. It wasn't just the documentary. It was the time. It was the lack of sports. There was a lot of things. And you probably saw the whole video about, is a Tiger Woods card pumped up too high?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting because the other thing, too, is the video on Tiger Woods is not going to be a warm, fuzzy one, guys. It's about him cheating on his wife and his affairs. Okay? The Michael Jordan one was not a negative one. The worst thing Michael Jordan did was he punched Steve Kerr in the video.
Made him a
So I'm only teasing that because the documentary thing, I think, it concerned me. Everybody thinks every time a documentary comes out, we're going to go build a card. Just be aware of that. Just be cautious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the point of hype, is like saying, well, what is real and what is not. And I mean, I think if you have someone look way better after a documentary, like you have a documentary about Lance Armstrong and it makes him look like a hero and really minimizes what he did with the steroids and whatnot, then all of a sudden I could see that as being like, okay, I think his cards could go up and stay up. Like the new floor could actually be a bit higher than before, because now the perception about Lance is higher from the public. But I mean, that's going down another rabbit hole. But I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, what is this strategy? And it's very dangerous when it's a one and done thing, like The Last Dance, right? I mean, Jordan is Jordan, but I was selling Steve Kerr cards, right?
Yeah. I know. I was selling his coach cards from the Prism. I think it was Prism 18 or 17 set, which there were cards like people hated Coach. You know, I just had a thought. Oh, I just went away because you reminded me of something. I'll come back.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's answer this question by Rudy. I know we got to get going in a few questions or a few minutes.
I don't know. I think people have the wrong assumptions to what's going to change. Like the grading's going to change this year. I don't see Nat's acquisition changing the times of grading at all, because he can't change the time of grading. I mean, it is what it is. I don't see a challenger to the market, because I think people like I'm wondering, where is BGS, man? Like, why haven't they struck a deal with ComC or StarStock or somebody else? It seems like every deal being struck is with PSA. I don't know if they'll be challenged, and I do not expect technology like human grading is going to be replaced by technology grading anytime in the future. I think the biggest thing to look for in this year, you're hit on it with the I think there'll be a $10 million sale in the auction. I also think the Space Jam that you mentioned before will have a big impact on the hobby, bigger than a documentary, because it's going to hit children as well.
Okay, good point. And there's a lot of stars in there. If you look at the Space Jam cast, LeBron's #1, but I looked up and I think it's Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, Anthony Davis, and maybe one or two others. But you could look it up and see for yourself. But well, it's also an interesting summer because we got the Olympics, we got Space Jam, we got a lot of things going on. And the Olympics, I don't know what's going to happen because there's a lot of stars from different countries, but Olympics are big. Olympics are a big deal. The other thing I was thinking, and it's a weird time because this would mark the 19th anniversary. This upcoming summer would be the 19th anniversary of the Dream Team from 1992. But you could celebrate them the 20th anniversary, but that's not an Olympic year. So I don't know if there's going to be anything about the Dream Team mentioned because it's so close to the 20th or not. But that was my childhood. Dream Team was like, oh my God, that was Michael Jordan and Karl Malone and John Stockton and all these guys coming together to kick the world's ass. Yeah. Sorry if you're international. Kick the world's ass in basketball.
There was a great documentary about that, and what was unbelievable was the teams that played against the Dream Team loved to play against them. They were happy to be beat. They were just starstruck to play. Starstruck to play with them. And that really did change global sports, by the way. I mean, the reason we are where we are today with modern NBA, and the reason why sports cards, especially basketball, have the value they do globally is because of that Dream Team in 1992. If that did not happen, we would not have the market we have today.
Gotcha. Well, I saw Andy's question here. I wanted to ask you about basketball since I know you're.
Because I talked to Andy, and I'm going to lob this up. It's Revolution, Andy. Him and I talked about this. It's Revolution because it's got a much shorter print run. It's got a long history. It's got phenomenal refractors. It's not just an autograph set, right? It's very similar to Prism, where you have a lot of chase cards, Galactic, Starburst, all sorts of stuff. And it does have a retail version as well. So I would say Revolution is probably the most undervalued set.
Tyler from Sports Card Investor was very intrigued by Revolution as well. And I have a few of the 15 to 16 cards. I think that was the first year, 15 to 16.
Yep.
And the design was cool. I could see children really liking it because it's more flash. The one thing I had with that year, and I don't know if it's thicker in other years, but it was a very thin card.
Yep.
So in a slab, it shouldn't matter. In holding it, I was like, this is extremely thin. And maybe that just makes it tougher to grade, which could be a good thing.
They used to be dirt cheap, by the way, too. Like, I want to say they have a Chinese New Year version, and they have the hobby version. I want to say I bought the Chinese version for like the same price as blaster boxes, like $20, $25 a box years ago. It's not like that anymore, but Revolution's a very, very fun set. It's underappreciated. It's hard to grade, but I do love the set. It's just not carried by Star Stock yet.
Yeah, but who knows? I mean, Star Stock at the pace they're growing, I hope they'll expand a bit more because I'd love to use them more and more. But anyway, we're gonna hop off. Any final words, Ziggy? I know this is the last bit of content for a while for you.
Quick prediction. I also suspect you're gonna see some mainstream set, like you're gonna see McDonald's set this year or a Burger King set, right? Like those insert sets we saw in the 80s. You're gonna see some main 7-Eleven set. I'm telling you, it's coming this year. And
Well,
there's going to be a lot of printing this year, guys. Okay, print runs go up every year. There's no doubt in my mind. And the manufacturers know how big retail is. So I know everybody's going out and they're buying, and we've all been told to hold sealed wax, right? I'm not against that, but just realize there's going to be a lot more than ever. Like even today with Hoops Premium and the Prism, normally in retail you see that 1 or 2 weeks. You're seeing that week after week after week after week. They are making tons of product this year.
Well, I mean, that's for sure. The print runs are going up. So maybe those undervalued sets could see some extra traction based on just print runs and things like that.
That's logic thinking. Remember the hobby solution.
Well, I mean, even back when I started, I remember on ComC comparing first year Prism to first year Select because I thought the idea of buying a first year of a set card was crazy because I'd never heard of that when I was a kid. I was like, the first year a player appears in a set, like that sounds stupid. But then I was looking at the prices and I'm like, all right, well, let's look at this a bit further. And when I saw the difference in first year Select and first year Prism and aesthetically, I'm like, look, I just like the look of Select more. And I had to learn that because it's hobby only, it wasn't as popular, it wasn't as desirable in this. But then the thought process came, well, does that mean it's going to catch up or is it going to get even further away? And I decided, well, for the cards I was buying, it was like 75 cents for a first year Shaq, right? I mean, let me buy 25 of them. Doesn't matter. It's not going to go down from 25 cents or 75 cents or whatever it is. It was more like, let me look at the upside there. But the one thing I will say with what you mentioned with Taco Bell and McDonald's, I hope they don't do that with any nice sets because I can't stand seeing, I think Hoops did it with Taco Bell in 2012 or something. I know Bowman Platinum, someone mentioned they hated that set. And I hate seeing the Walmart edition. Like, you can't have something nice and then have the word Taco Bell attached or Walmart or McDonald's.
I'll just remind you, remember, these guys are in business to make money. And if I was Panini, the perfect year to do it. Olympic set with McDonald's, you got global distribution. You could do team sets, you could do soccer, you could do basketball. I'm just saying, look for it this year. It's likely to happen. They're not in the business, guys, for the hobby. They're in the business for money. That's why they need to have competition.
That's right. Awesome stuff. Well, Ziggy, I appreciate you coming on. Definitely check out Ziggy's channel. I watched for the last couple of videos, and I guess we'll just see where you're at in the next weeks and months.
Yep, you'll see something soon, man. It won't be long, and I will definitely be around. And like I said, always reach out. Thank you again, Brad, for a wonderful evening. Thank you to all the wonderful people in the chat. Really had a great evening, guys.
Awesome. My pleasure. And guys, I will see you in the next video. I'm going to eat some donut baklava cake.
I have a little piece of cake.
Hey, there we go. There we go. Not too bad.
Thanks again. I'm going to sign off.